Okay, we're going to talk about water and erosion. Water and erosion go together. Basically, water causes a great agent of erosion. And chapter 13.1, water and erosion. Here we go. The water cycle. Now, here's the deal. Each of you have known what the water cycle is since you were in kindergarten. Um, Water is constantly moving back and forth from the land to the water to the sky and back again, and it's doing it all the time. And so this cycle we refer to as the water cycle. Actually, also I forgot the ground in there. The water goes in the ground as well. But long and short is it's constantly going back and forth, and so we need to look as to where it's coming from. So here's a diagram. If we start over here in the ocean, um, water evaporates, so it goes up into the air, or it stays right where it's at. So if it evaporates, it eventually goes up into the sky, which it will condense, and condenses when it forms water droplets. So in other words, makes clouds. Eventually, it's got to come down because it cannot be supported by the air anymore. It's too heavy, whatever, and precipitation takes place. Now, it can fall in snow or ice or hail, but as it comes down to the ground, it's got to go somewhere. We see that going into rivers, lakes, streams, the groundwater, and then eventually it evaporates again from Mr. Sun. Mr. Sun, Sun, Mr. Golden Sun. You guys all know this. Please shine down on me. Okay, next one. So, evaporation. Evaporation. Basically, evaporation or evapotranspiration. Evapotranspiration is a combination of evaporation and transpiration. Now, evaporation. Sun hits the water or heats up the water, changes liquid into a gas, goes up. Transpiration. Transpiration occurs with plants, and so the same type of thing basically happens. Everybody here has been in the middle of an Illinois cornfield in July and August when we have 100% humidity. Well, transpiration is the water traveling through the plant, given off into the air. Evaporation takes place also with animals too, and I thought I'd throw that in there. If you look at 86% of the evaporation coming from the oceans, it makes sense. The majority of our planet is ocean. 14% coming from lakes, rivers, streams, plants, etc. Again, think about the percent of the Earth that is ocean. Think about the percent of the Earth that is not. Um, Runoff. We see runoff if we have precipitation. Eventually, either that water goes into the groundwater, or it runs off into rivers, lakes, and streams. And so you have two basic choices. You can either get absorbed, so it gets soaked into the ground, or maybe that water can be tapped by wells, and people use it for consumption. In fact, they're talking about that in Africa right now, of tapping into some really, really deep groundwater aquifers. It's called an aquifer where the water is for use for drinking. Anyhow, runoff goes into rivers, lakes, and streams. Condensation. Eventually, air will cool off and water will come out of the gassy form. It condenses. It either condenses as a cloud, or each of you have seen this in dew on the ground. When it gets cold, the water forms droplets on the grass. You walk through, you get your feet wet, or on the outside of the glass on a hot summer day. Around the outside of the glass, a little microclimate forms, cools off. As it cools off, the droplets form on the outside of the glass. They drip down to the bottom of the glass, and then it forms a water ring on your mom's table, and then you get in trouble. So, but that's condensation. Um, Precipitation, rain, snow, sleet, hail. Eventually, it's got to come to the ground. Okay, so looking at this map here, we have a map of the United States. Notice that the eastern part of the United States here has quite a bit of precipitation. In fact, we see a lot down here in the Gulf of Mexico, and then we see this giant line here over in Kansas, edge of Texas, and then it gets really dry. Well, what's going on is winds coming from the Pacific Ocean. It's got to dump all of its water here in Washington because it's got to get up over the top of the mountains, so it has to go up. As it goes up, it condenses, drops all of its water on the windward side. On the leeward side, it's dry. So this whole area right here is very arid, very dry, and it's caused because there's no precipitation. Plus, you've got Mexico down here. There's no influx of moisture coming in this way. You've got Canada up here, no moisture coming this way. And they're pretty separated from everything. So, again, good idea of how it works for the United States. So, we'll go ahead and stop there, and we'll pick up a little bit later.